5.4 The inflorescence of flower is a modified shoot wherein the shoot apical meristem changes to floral meristem. Internodes do not elongate and the axis gets condensed. The apex produces different kinds of floral appendages laterally at successive nodes instead of leaves. When a shoot tip transforms into a flower, it is always solitary. The arrangement of flowers on the floral axis is termed as inflorescence. Depending on whether the apex gets developed into a flower or continues to grow, two major types of inflorescences are defined, racemose and cymose. In racemose type of inflorescences, the main axis continues to grow. The flowers are borne laterally in an acropetal succession, figure 5.11. In cymose type of inflorescence, the main axis terminates in a flower, hence is limited in growth. The flowers are borne in a basipetal order, figure 5.12. 5.5 The flower is the reproductive unit in the angiosperms. It is meant for sexual reproduction. A typical flower has 4 different kinds of whorls arranged successively on the swollen end of the stalk or pedicel, called thalamus or receptacle. These are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Calyx and corolla are accessory organs, while androecium and gynoecium are reproductive organs. In some flowers like lily, the calyx and corolla are not distinct and are termed as perianth. When a flower has both androecium and gynoecium, it is bisexual. A flower having either only stamens or only carpels is unisexual. In symmetry, the flower may be actinomorphic radial symmetry or zygomorphic bilateral symmetry. When a flower can be divided into 2 equal radial halves in any radial plane passing through the center, it is said to be actinomorphic, e.g., mustard, datura, chili. When it can be divided into 2 similar halves only in one particular vertical plane, it is, e.g., pea, gulmohar, bean, cassia. A flower is asymmetric, irregular, if it cannot be divided into 2 similar halves by any vertical plane passing through the center, as in canna. A flower may be trimerous, tetramerous or pentamerous when the floral appendages are in multiple of 3, 4 or 5, respectively. Flowers with bracts reduced leaf found at the base of the pedicel are called bracteate and those without bracts, abracteate. Based on the position of calyx, corolla and androecium in respect of the ovary on thalamus, the flowers are described as hypogynous, perigynous and epigynous, figure 5.13. In the hypogynous flower, the gynoecium occupies the highest position while the other parts are situated below it. The ovary in such flowers is said to be superior, e.g., mustard, china rose and brinjal. If gynoecium is situated in the center and other parts of the flower are located on the rim of the thalamus almost at the same level, it is called perigynous. The ovary here is said to be half inferior, e.g., plum, rose, peach. In epigynous flowers, the margin of thalamus grows upward enclosing the ovary completely and getting fused with it. The other parts of flower arise above the ovary. Hence, the ovary is said to be inferior as in flowers of guava and cucumber and the ray florets of sunflower. 5.5.1 Parts of a flower. Each flower normally has 4 floral whorls, viz., calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium, figure 5.14. 5.5.1.1 Calyx. The calyx is the outermost whorl of the flower and the members are called sepals. Generally, sepals are green, leaf-like and protect the flower in the bud stage. The calyx may be gomosepalous, sepals united, or polysepalous, sepals free. 5.5.1.2 Corolla. Corolla is composed of petals. Petals are usually brightly colored to attract insects for pollination. Like calyx, corolla may also be gamopetalous petals united or polypetalous petals free. The shape and color of corolla vary greatly in plants. Corolla may be tubular, bell-shaped, funnel-shaped or wheel-shaped. Estivation, the mode of arrangement of sepals or petals in floral bud with respect to the other members of the same whorl is known as estivation. The main types of estivation are valvate, twisted, imbricate and vexillary, figure 5.15. When sepals or petals in a whorl just touch one another at the margin, without overlapping, as in calotropis, it is said to be valvate. If one margin of the appendage overlaps that of the next one and so on as in china rose, lady's finger and cotton, it is called twisted. If the margins of sepals or petals overlap one another but not in any particular direction as in cassia and gulmohar, the estivation is called imbricate. In pea and bean flowers, there are 5 petals. The largest, standard, overlaps the 2 lateral petals, wings, which in turn overlap the 2 smallest anterior petals, keel. This type of estivation is known as vexillary or papilionaceous. 5.5.1.3 Androecium. Androecium is composed of stamens. Each stamen, which represents the male reproductive organ, consists of a stalk or a filament and an anther. Each anther is usually bilobed and each lobe has two chambers, the pollen sacs. The pollen grains are produced in pollen sacs. A sterile stamen is called staminode. Stamens of flower may be united with other members such as petals or among themselves. When stamens are attached to the petals, they are epipetalous as in brinjal, or epiphyllous when attached to the perianth as in the flowers of lily. The stamens in a flower may either remain free, polyandrous, or may be united in varying degrees. The stamens may be united into one bunch of one bundle, monodelphous as in China rose, or two bundles, diadelphous as in pea, or into more than two bundles, polyadelphous as in citrus. There may be a variation in the length of filaments within a flower, as in salvia and mustard. 5.5.1.4 Gynoecium. Gynoecium is the female reproductive part of the flower and is made up of one or more carpels. A carpel consists of three parts, namely stigma, style and ovary. Ovary is the enlarged basal part, on which lies the elongated tube, the style. The style connects the ovary to the stigma. The stigma is usually at the tip of the style and is the receptive surface for pollen grains. Each ovary bears one or more ovules attached to a flattened, cushion-like placenta. When more than one carpel is present, they may be free, as in lotus and rose, and are called apocarpous. They are termed syncarpous when carpels are fused, as in mustard and tomato. After fertilization, the ovules develop into seeds and the ovary matures into a fruit. Placentation. The arrangement of ovules within the ovary is known as placentation. The placentation are of different types, namely marginal, axile, parietal, basal, central and free central. Figure 5.16. In marginal placentation, the placenta forms a ridge along the ventral suture of the ovary and the ovules are borne on this ridge, forming two rows, as in P. When the placenta is axial and the ovules are attached to it in a multilocular ovary, the placentine is said to be axile, as in China rose, tomato and lemon. In parietal placentation, the ovules develop on the inner wall of the ovary or on peripheral part. Ovary is one-chambered, but it becomes two-chambered due to the formation of the false septum, e.g., mustard and ajman. When the ovules are borne on central axis and septa are absent, as in dianthus and primrose, the placentation is called free central. In basal placentation, the placenta develops at the base of ovary and a single ovule is attached to it. As in sunflower, marigold. 5.6 The fruit. The fruit is a characteristic feature of the flowering plants. It is a mature or ripened ovary, developed after fertilization. If a fruit is formed without fertilization of the ovary, it is called a parthenocarpic fruit. Generally, the fruit consists of a wall or pericarp and seeds. The pericarp may be dry or fleshy. When pericarp is thick and fleshy, it is differentiated into the outer epicarp, the middle mesocarp and the inner endocarp. In mango and coconut, the fruit is known as a drupe. Figure 5.17. They develop from monocarpellary superior ovaries and are one-seeded. In mango, the pericarp is well differentiated into an outer thin epicarp, a middle fleshy edible mesocarp and an inner stony hard endocarp. In coconut, which is also a drupe, the mesocarp is fibrous. 5.7 The seed. The ovules after fertilization develop into seeds. A seed is made up of a seed coat and an embryo. The embryo is made up of a radicle, an embryonal axis and one, as in wheat, maize or two cotyledons as in gram and pea. 5.7.1 Structure of a dicotyledonous seed. The outermost covering of a seed is the seed coat. The seed coat has two layers, the outer tester and the inner tegmen. The hilum is a scar on the seed coat through which the developing seeds were attached to the fruit. Above the hilum is a small pore called the micropyle. Within the seed coat is the embryo, consisting of an embryonal axis and two cotyledons. The cotyledons are often fleshy and full food materials. At the two ends of the embryonal axis are present the radicle and the plumule. Figure 5.18. In some seeds such as castor, the endosperm formed as a result of double fertilization is a food-storing tissue and called endospermic seeds. In plants such as bean, gram and pea, the endosperm is not present in mature seeds and such seeds are called non-endospermous. 5.7.2 Structure of monocotyledonous seed. Generally, monocotyledonous seeds are endospermic, but some, as in orchids, are non-endospermic. In the seeds of cereals such as maize, the seed coat is membranous and generally fused with the fruit wall. The endosperm is bulky and stores food. The outer covering of endosperm separates the embryo by a proteinous layer called aleuron layer. The embryo is small and situated in a groove at one end of the endosperm. It consists of one large and shield-shaped cotyledon known as scutellum and a short axis with a plumule and a radicle. The plumule and radicle are enclosed in sheaths which are called coleoptile and coleoriza respectively, figure 5.19.